Welcome back to Rich Bish Era. I'm going to do a solo episode and take you through some of the things that I've been teaching my team and the women that I mentor very closely over this past quarter / end of last year to now, and really go into some detail around what is working, what isn't working, and how I teach to really focus on a couple of things at a time and not really spreading yourself too thin. So I'm going to start with a bit of advice that I gave someone yesterday on a training call. She was very driven. She really has a lot of belief in her business. She's going places. She's got big ideas. And after she rattled off for about 5 minutes the 5 different strategies that she was using in her business, I asked her one question: how are you feeling? Because even just hearing all of the strategies that she was working on, my nervous system felt a bit rattled. I was almost stressed on her behalf on how much she was doing, and I could see that it wasn't actually producing results yet. And she said, Jess, I'm so overwhelmed. Like, I'm so overwhelmed and busy and feel like I've got so much on my plate. And I was like, okay, which one of those strategies feels like it's most in your genius zone? And she shared with me, which was the one that I assumed it was, which is sort of where her background and her spirit experience lies. And I see this in so many driven, A-type, visionary women that they want to do all of the things, but one of the biggest things to learn and pieces of self-control that we need is actually how to pull back and what not to do. I'm sure you could do all of the things, but a very key skill is knowing what you can do that doesn't need to be done right now and gets to just be something that maybe eventually you try out. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you need to do it. So with this woman that I was mentoring, she is now focusing on one thing and doing it well, instead of doing 5 things and not doing them well and basically doing them all at 50%. And not actually getting to the point where sales are being closed, where you're actually building revenue in your business, instead of just looking and feeling really busy. So coming into 2026, what are the focuses that you decided on? What are the focuses that you wanted for your business and for your life? In January, I did a workshop that was called The Upgrade, and we focused on not just goal setting, but actually the identity that you want to step into this year. So who do you want to be, and how do you want to lead, and how do you want that to feel? What's the identity that you want to step into, and what are the limiting beliefs that are holding you back from actually achieving that? Now, in previous years, I've done goal setting for about 10 years now, different various workshops at the beginning of the year. And there have been years where I have taught, going and making goals in 5 different areas of your life: career, money, business, relationships, adventure and fun, health and wellness, and really getting clear on what you want in each of those areas. For some people, that feels really good. And depending on your personality, you may love doing that. I used to love doing that. This year, I actually I did do a bit of journaling in each area, but I really just focused on, what do I really want to focus on? What are the 2 or 3 areas that I actually care about that are priorities for me this year? Some things might just be a value that you don't really need to have a goal in. Like for me, health and wellness, it's who I am. I don't really need to have a goal there because it's always something that's a priority and really important to me. The other 2 areas, and this is what I have been teaching to people that I mentor and also focusing on in my own business, there's literally only 2 things: mindset and ads. That's it. So I decided I would only invest in those 2 things this year. Mindset, I just did Genesis. I also just reinvested in an incredible, I would say that she's an energy healer, but she's a lot more than that. She's like a business clearing sort of coach as well, Asha Erickson, who I am yet to have on the podcast, but I promise you it's coming. I've had her on some team calls and she's been incredible, and you may have seen her in some of my content. So I've invested in areas that feel really aligned for me from a mindset and identity perspective. And then I invested from the beginning of January into an ads agency. And that's because, again, you may be able to do something. I've been running ads for 7 years now. I could go and post ads if I want to, but you can't scale if you continue to do the same thing and getting the same results. My ads get results, but they're not scaling. And if you keep doing the thing yourself, you're also not buying yourself the time to refine your skills and stay in your zone of genius. So I believe there is a time and a place for doing things yourself. So when it comes to ads, for instance, it is important that, you know, and I do a lot of training on this, that you understand how ads work, particularly if you're doing meta ads, which is Instagram and Facebook ads. A lot of people think it's a lot more complicated in their minds than what it actually is if you just went on to Business Manager, clicked create ad, and walked yourself through what it takes to actually just post an ad. I've done my time as the person that runs the ads, and now I've invested in an agency that is running the ads for me. So what that means is I'm creating the creative and then giving the creative to them. So what I want to talk you through today is some of the lessons that I have learnt over this past couple of months with mindset and what I'm investing in, and also with ads and the strategy that I'm investing in, because regardless of your business, regardless of where you're at, you will get huge returns if you invest in yourself and you invest in your strategy. And they go hand in hand together, because if you have limiting beliefs and you have blocks and you think, I can't do this, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or, any of those limiting beliefs that hold us back, so many times it comes back to not feeling enough, then you can have the best strategy in the world, but you probably won't implement it, or you'll procrastinate, and there'll be other things that hold you back. So they really go hand in hand. In terms of the mindset work that I've done this year, I invested into Genesis, which was a 3-day event that went very deep on mindset, personal development, your identity, limiting beliefs that hold you back, conditioning and habits and things from your past, the way that you grew up, your childhood, your parents, etc., and how that has shaped how you act, how you behave, how you think, and the beliefs that we have. And that is the type of work I've been doing for over a decade, and still I walked away with immense value from this 3-day event. It was American time zone. There was an Australian time zone, but it was too hard for me to do with 3 kids and pick up and whatnot. So I actually got up at 3 a.m. and for 3 days in a row, 2:50, and I joined these live events from 3 a.m. to 1 p.m. 3 days in a row. And it really took a lot of resilience to stay awake, firstly, and also to do work that's quite deep work while you're not, fully awake and fully feeling at your optimum. But it was worth doing, and I'm sharing this because no one ever really wakes up feeling like, yay, let's dig into my past traumas and let's go and head on face the things that are holding me back, and let's be really self-responsible and talk about how I'm fucking up my own results. No one wakes up thinking that. And yet it is the biggest probably block in your business that you're not doing enough work on. And I say this from the thousands of women that I do mentor, where I ask them the questions like, how are you feeling? When they've just told me 5 minutes of strategy and what they're doing in their business. It's very rarely the strategy, and most often the person that's implementing the strategy and what's going on there. And that doesn't mean that life won't life. Life will absolutely life all the time. But it's how you actually respond, overreact to that, and how you move forward regardless of those things. So doing Genesis was an incredible experience. One concept that they really drilled down on, which I learnt many moons ago on one of my very first personal development events that I went to about 10 years ago with David T.S. Wood. He taught the concept of an event and a story. So you experience an event and then you create meaning from it. You create a story from that event. So it could be something that you experienced as a child. It could be something that you experience with another person. It could be something whatever the story is, whatever the event is, you create a story from that. Now, every single person would create a different story from having potentially the same event, right? Because it all comes down to our own conditioning, the habits that we've formed over time, and the meaning that we create from something. So usually if you're carrying trauma or you have a very distinct pattern of responding to things, it's not because of an event. It's because of the story and the meaning that you have attached to that event and what you've made that mean about you. And we know that beliefs are just thoughts that you've thought over and over and over again enough for it to create a belief, right? So what if you actually decided you're going to work on the beliefs that are holding you back based off the story that you've told yourself is the truth from an event that you experienced? So I'll give some very simple business related examples of this because I'm not here to be your therapist. Like if there's something that you've gone through, I definitely recommend seeking some professional help on that. But in terms of business related events and stories that I can give from experience helping people through this, one thing is results. So if someone is not getting results, they will create a story around that. Now, let's dive even more micro and look at someone having a lead, and the lead goes through their sales process, right? So they might get a lead that is really interested in what they're selling, go through and watch a training, get onto a sales call, they're all in, and then they decide actually it's not for them. Or maybe they even ghost you, right? That is an event that I've been through hundreds of times. What story do you make that mean about you? If you've had that experience, or if you are yet to have it, I can almost promise you will if you're in the online space. What story would you make that mean about you? Would you make it mean that you're shit at business, that you're terrible, that you stuffed up in some way, that, oh, see, here's evidence that, like, of course it won't work? What's the little bitchy voice in your mind that actually has a story around that event? Because what if the story, and this is what's true for me, the story is it's not right for them. I make it mean nothing about me. If it's not right for the person, that's great. You both have an answer and you can move on, right? It's better off that you have a yes or no answer than both being in limbo, right? The story that you create is also something that if you've read the book Exponential Kink, you might recognize this concept. We continue to perpetuate situations that give us evidence of what we want to believe. So if we feel safety in believing this business doesn't work, or I'm not worthy, or see it works for someone else but not for me, and you want to keep that and that's your comfort zone, you'll actually subconsciously continue to create situations that give you evidence that that is true. We will never act out of integrity and out of alignment for what our true core beliefs are around the stories that we're creating and the meaning that we're creating behind events. So if you can see that this is a habit in your life, there's something that is basically giving you a bit of a kink, or that like you're getting a kick out of, or you're subconsciously benefiting from, and that's why there's a recurring theme or recurring habit around that situation that keeps coming up, so that you can see the evidence. It's like a loop, right? You see the evidence and then it just validates that belief. It's like validating, and then you keep believing it even more. So if you haven't done Genesis, I would highly recommend it. It's not something I'm affiliated with, but this is the type of work that I believe every human on the planet would get benefit from doing. It is through Kiela Kanai. I might actually just even put his Instagram in the show notes of this podcast, because he is the brains, his company Inspirian is the brains behind that course. And I'm sure you've probably already done a lot of work on this, but it's a really good thing to sit down and inquire about in yourself. Of the question that I ask women that I mentor is, why don't you want the thing you say you want? So if the thing you say you want is 50K months and maybe you're at 30K months and you want to scale, why don't you want that thing? What do you feel you will lose, or you will sacrifice, or you will feel unsafety with if you actually get to the goal that you want to get to? So 7 years ago when I replaced my income, my mentor asked me that question, why don't you want the very thing that you say that you want? And the answer for me was such a trauma response based off my previous business experience, which was, I feel like if I get there, I'm going to have to sacrifice and hustle and burn myself out in order to get there, because I'd never had success any other way. I didn't know what it looked like to have success without burning myself out, like basically having a mental breakdown and just having no time for myself, and feeling like my nervous system and just body was like constantly go, go, go and on. And stress was normal for me at that time. So I had to work on it. I did so much work on feeling safety to have success without burnout, and success without sacrifice, and success without feeling like there had to be some part of me that was lost in the process of that success, right? Which is why I'm so passionate about having systems do the heavy lifting for you, and you know, outsourcing and all of these streamlined things, because that is the way that I've been able to do that. So that's what I've focused on with my mindset. And as I mentioned, I work one-on-one with someone as well. I'm also just doing a lot of work on journaling myself and trusting myself that often we do have the answers if we give ourselves that space. You don't always need to be working with someone. I choose to, but if you didn't work with someone, you would just probably have the answers if you actually give yourself the time and space to ask the right questions. So if you sat with the question of what is holding you back, or why don't you want the thing that you say you want, or what is the identity that you're staying so loyal to? These are the types of questions that you could start to inquire with, and probably no one knows you better than what you know yourself. So you'll probably get the answers that you need without even talking to anyone else. So mindset is really important. And that's that's how I've been investing into that this year. The other thing that I've been investing into is, like I said, ads. And the strategy that I was teaching late last year around trial reels has actually really informed my strategy with ads, and it's been really helpful. So I wanted to share how that has transitioned, how trial reels has transitioned into ads, and some tips around how you can do this even if you have a very low budget, or you can't, you might not be at the point of working with an ads agency. So late last year, I think it was around September, I went incredibly viral with 5 different reels, and I started to do some training around trial reels because it was working really well. Trial reels have shifted a bit since then, but the premise and the strategy still remains and again, this is a really big belief that I've always had over the years of, if you're going to do the hard work once, get as much leverage as you can over and over and over and over and over again, right? So what I used to teach literally 5-6 years ago was, if you're going to make a piece of content, go and duplicate it across 7 different platforms, right? If you're doing reels, if you're going to take the time and the effort to make a reel, whether that's a talking reel, whether that's a 7-second B-roll reel, whether that's a highly edited reel, whatever it is, you want to get the most bang for your buck and give it multiple lives, right? So one way that is working really well now is trial reels. So if you create that reel and then you save it in your drafts and then you duplicate it 5 times, I don't really recommend doing it more than 5 times because Meta doesn't seem to like that. But if you duplicate it 5 times, so there's 6 reels in your drafts, you would post 5 to your trial reels and you save 1 in your draft. Now, what you do is you create it fully how you want it first, with the caption and everything, before you duplicate it. Then all you're changing is 1 variable. So that might be the trending audio. It might be the hook, which absolutely recommend it to be the hook as much as possible, because if there's one skill set to learn in marketing, it's hooks, because it doesn't matter what type of marketing you're doing, what the type of content is, hooks are everything. So if you test 5 different trial reels with 5 different hooks, then you'll be able to start to learn quite quickly what hooks work and what hooks don't. So it could be the hook, it could be the audio, it could be the way you edit the actual video. So say if it's a 7-second reel, it might be the frame you start on. It might be that one of the reels is 7 seconds of footage, just like straight. It might be the next one is 7 seconds of footage with a second taken out every now and then, right? So it's a little bit choppy. So changing the actual video works really well in the way that it's edited, or the actual B-roll. So it might be the same hook, the same audio, but it's a different B-roll that you're using. You also can change the actual frame that you see on your, on your For You page, and the first line of your caption. The first line of your caption, remember, is all people see in the caption before they click read more. Now, this isn't, neither of those things, the frame or the caption, are going to be seen as the change for the reel, but you can start to test these things in conjunction with the hook, the audio, the video, etc. I often also, if I feel like I've really nailed the hook, I sometimes change the font or the way that it is coming up on the video as well. So all of these things, just think of it as a science experiment. You want to really only change one variable at a time, because otherwise if you get something that works really well, you'll have no way to know what made that work really well if you've changed too many variables. So you've made the reel, you've done the work of making it, and then you duplicate it. Then you're posting them to trial reels with a different variable being tested each time you post that trial reel. You post them all around the same time. So I would sit down and just do this all at once, right? Post it around the same time, because again, otherwise it's a variable. The variable of how long that piece of content has been live out on the internet, in Instagram. So then, say 12 to 24 hours later, you can go back and see which one performed the best. So out of the 5, which one got the most views, and what did you learn from that? Like was it the hook? Was it the audio? Was it the way that you edited the video? What was it that you think worked? Then the one that's remaining in your draft, you go and duplicate that, and that's the one that goes on your grid. Right? So you're posting it separately to your grid. The purpose is not so that your grid post does really well. I'm sure it will do well because you've tested that before you've posted it. But it's actually so that you learn the principles and what's working for you and your content around going, not just necessarily going viral, but a piece of content doing well and getting the most amount of views and engagement as what's possible for you. Because someone asked me yesterday, well, how do I know what's good? And I was like, how long's a piece of string? It really depends. Like, I've got over 12,500 followers. So what is good for me is going to be different to someone that's got like 2 million followers, and also someone that's got 1,000 followers, right? So you need to be looking at your analytics and seeing what is abnormally good in terms of performance for content for you. Now, what I've taken from this strategy for my ads and taking it next level is I now have a good 6 months or more of trial reels that I can go back on and look at what performed, what messaging performed. I had these 5 trial reels go incredibly viral. One had 1 million views, and it had a call to action on it. So I had hundreds of comments putting my keyword for information. So it was a really good test for me on how well the responses went from like that sort of reel, and secondly, which reels worked best in terms of like the audio. This particular reel had a little bit of real life sound with a trending audio. So you could still hear a little bit of words, a little bit of sound, which I've picked up on with my reels, when you can still hear, when I've had photo shoots and there's been B-roll, and you can hear, one of my friends, Jess, was at one of my shoots, and she was like, oh my God, babe, you look so hot. Like, yes. And she was like cheerleading me in the background. And when I used that with some of the background audio still with the trending audio, it did really well, because it's kind of just funny and cute and authentic when you hear like a bit of background noise, right? So these are the things that I've picked up on over the last 6 months. I then went and looked at, okay, well, which pieces of content did really well as trial reels that I can use for top, middle, and bottom of funnel content. If you don't know what that is, top is like they have no idea who you are, you're a complete random stranger, but you need to give them a reason to pay attention, right? Like, what are you actually saying that is making them pay attention and introducing them to who you are? Middle of funnel is value. what can you teach, like this trial reel strategy. There's so many things that I can teach in middle of funnel that gives a little snippet of gold, a little bit of value to my target audience. And then bottom of funnel, and like if you think of literally a funnel, bottom of funnel is where they like pop out the bottom as a sale, as a qualified lead, right? So bottom of funnel is where you have the invitation. So there must be a call to action in your bottom of funnel. Now, the way that I've always done it is top of funnel ads, you redirect middle of funnel to the people that watched top of funnel, or like they've watched 25% or more of the videos from top of funnel. Bottom of funnel, your audience is the people that watch the middle of funnel. So as you can imagine, someone in the bottom of funnel, they've seen your middle of funnel content and they've seen your top of funnel content. So you're no longer a stranger. They've seen some of your stuff. They've learnt from you. There's starting to be a little bit of rapport there. They know a bit about who you are. And on top of this, as I have always, I'm a broken record on, your personal brand is everything. Where else have they heard you? Have they heard your podcast? Have they heard your content? Have they gone and binged your stuff? Are you, like never on your socials, never on your stories? Or can they go and see your face and hear your voice? Because now with AI, more than ever, it's really important people can actually hear and feel you. Because as much as I love B-roll, and as a busy mum, like I smash out the B-roll as well, I also make sure that there are times that I'm going live or I'm face to camera in my stories, or, I'm doing content that is what's working right now. Reese Witherspoon just went viral doing this, is the FaceTime type content where it's like you're just talking in the car with your coffee, as if you're FaceTiming a friend. So as incredible as like top, middle and bottom of funnel strategy is, you still need to be posting on your socials. It doesn't have to be all the time, but like posting regularly so that if someone goes and binges your content or goes and looks at you and sees who you are from your ads, they may come in that way rather than actually directly responding to an ad. And actually, I've had more sales go through from people who have seen my ads or seen my content and decided to follow me than people that have directly responded to a call to action. So what does that tell you? It tells you that people do their homework. You need more time with people now more than ever in terms of the time they spend with your content. And Daniel Priestley has a great podcast on Diary of the CEO on this, on how many hours you must spend with someone before you have built that rapport. Not physically, not in real life, but their content. So if that's across 4 platforms and say it's like 12 hours, I think he teaches 12 hours of content, how long is it going to take for someone to clock up 12 hours worth of content with you? Would it take a year or would it take a month? It's the same as the amount of times they see you. I get women saying to me all the time, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to sound repetitive. Not everyone's going to see your content. And the actual fact is they need to see the same thing multiple times. How many times have you seen an ad and you've been served it a few times, and maybe on the third time that you see it, you click the link and buy? I did this recently with tickets to this, this is going to sound crazy, but it was like a 4 a.m. dance party on the beach in DY that was like this sober, like cool, like dance party, silent disco thing. And I had the ad come up a few times, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, 4 a.m. It sounds fun. It'd be a cool environment, silent disco, sun rising and be beautiful. But I just didn't really have it in me to book the tickets and to organize it. Then on the third time I did, and I booked the tickets, I organized it, all of the things, right? But I needed to see it a couple of times. It's the same with your content, whether that's with ads or organic. People need to see your stuff multiple times because as consumers, it's very rare actually that we click on something and buy the first time we see it. This is all data as well. The more, like when you actually get into ads, you can see so much more of the user journey and the consumer's journey through your funnel if you're actually running ads as well. You can't see as much if it's just all organic. So with trial reels, I've been able to look back and look at, okay, what performed well organically that I can now use as my top, middle, and bottom of funnel ads. And that's now what I've been doing and testing the past month. And as you would probably not be surprised, the reel that went viral on 5 different trial reels is working really well as an ad. I did change it to have a different caption so that it was a little bit more of a direct call to action in the, like on the creative rather than in the caption. But it's working quite well as a creative. So these are the things that, you know, it's going to help on both. It's going to help with your organic if you're doing trial reels, and it's going to help with your ads if you're running ads, and just learning the skills of marketing, learning the skills of hooks, of creating content, of knowing your actual audience, right? And the best place ever to get hooks and to know what your messaging should be is in your inbox. If you're not having conversations with your target market, if you're not getting leads and you're not asking the question of like, what brought you here? Like, what is happening in your life that has you wanting this? Then you're not getting the most crucial content, which is, what is the pain point? What is happening in your audience's life that has them wanting the offer that you have, that has you being able to fix the problem that's keeping them awake at 2 a.m.? What is that for you? It's also really good authority content so that you could do a reel. If you are actually having these conversations, you could do a reel and say, 22 women this week told me that they want more time with their kids and less working their way up a corporate ladder for someone who would replace them, the day after that they quit. See how specific that is? I've made that up. That's not actually in my inbox because I talk more to marketers who are already, in the marketing space. But when I first started, that was the woman that I spoke to because that was my story and that was my marketing. And then when people came into my inbox, they had similar pain points to me. And they also wanted to leave the corporate world, and they also were sick of hustling for someone else's business, and they wanted their own business and they wanted their own time freedom. So if you're having these conversations, you not only have a very easy time creating hooks, but you also can create content from those conversations that are really niche and really speak to a micro moment in that person's life. So then people feel seen, and you might repel people. You might repel a follower that's followed you for 7 years who's like, I don't know what she's talking about. Like, that's not me, or I don't resonate with that. That's cool. Like, you're not here for everyone anyway. The more vague you are with your messaging, the more watered down it is, the more you're trying to be fluffy and use terms that are so overdone and overused, the more likely you will attract no one. Because the more vague and vanilla you are, the less someone feels seen. If you're really specific with the micro moments that you're calling out, the more someone's going to be like, oh my God, she's in my mind, she's in my head, and really actually feel like you understand their life. So ads have been the big strategy that I've been focused on and investing in this year. I'm currently running ads, as I said, from my trial strategy to now testing creatives in ads, in doing a campaign to DMs. So I've got my appointment setter responding to a lot of DMs at the moment, and then they get to the point where they're talking to me and they're on a call with me. So it's only qualified leads that are getting time with me. We also have been trialing, I don't know if anyone else that's running ads has had this, but Meta has had a bit of a glitch at the moment where if you're running ads to traffic, it's not working super well. So we've only just kind of come out the other side of that, and we're going to be running ads directly to my funnel. And then so people go through, they watch the webinar and my free training. They then book a call. They watch a little bit more information before they jump on the call. So we're looking at which one is going to be converting higher. Now, if you are doing ads, you've got to remember that depending on what you're asking someone to do will then depend on your results. So if you're asking someone to just DM a word, that's a really low effort action. So you're probably going to get more leads, but they're less qualified, right? So you've got to do the work to ask the questions and qualify them before they get to the next level. If you are asking them to do more work, like for instance, going to a funnel, watching a training, and then booking in a call, even though it's stacked value and they can see how much value they get by booking that call, it's still a bigger ask and a bigger action. So you may get less leads. It's not about the number of leads. It's about the number of sales that come off the back of those leads. So you might get less people go through your funnel, but more people buy because they're more qualified by the time you're actually having any sort of conversation with them. So you've got to look at, what is your dream business? What does it look like? What does your dream business look like? How much leverage, how much automation do you have? Have you built passive income? Are you actually getting paid even when sales aren't happening within your business, right? Which is the business that I've built so that I don't need to be making my own direct sales. I've built an organization that does $200,000 to $300,000 in sales per month, not because they're all coming from me, but because I have trained the people and had some level of mentorship in the people that are making these sales, right? So what does it look like 5 to 7 years down the track for you? Do you have leverage, or are the sales and the income that you're making right now, is that always going to be dependent on you being present and you showing up and doing the work for that sale? Or is there genuine leverage in what you're doing? For your own direct sales, ads is a no-brainer to me. Like, if you want to be in your feminine in business, you need some masculine structures. And that's the biggest lie, honestly, that I see within the industry, is people thinking they can have a business in their feminine and just go to a cacao ceremony and self-pleasure after lunch every day and build a fucking 6-figure business. And the reality is, anyone successful that is in their feminine in business has a really solid masculine structure in the background, which is doing the heavy lifting for them. It might be someone doing their content. It might be like what I'm transparently showing you, which is I've got an ads agency doing my ads for me. It might be an appointment setter. It might be, outsourcing and actually having a strategy that is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for them. I'm all for being in your feminine and having the creative flow and a calm nervous system and making sure that you actually are looking after yourself. And also that has to start from having a strategy and a structure in place that can hold you so that you don't have to constantly be working in your business and you have the space to work on your business. So ads is the strategy that I have chosen, and it is one that I really strongly believe in because it's easy to scale money. It's not easy to scale time. You only have 24 hours in the day. If you find an ad that's working, you can go put more budget on that. And if you're earning $3,000 to $7,000 per sale, there is really no excuse not to put more money on that ad if you find it's working. If you're doing something that is investing time, and to get anywhere in business, you're either going to have to invest time or money or both. It's your choice. But if you're only investing time and no money, how will you scale more time? Are you going to make more hours in the day, or are you going to quit your job and just keep putting in time? You've got to think a few steps ahead and think, what is the step to scale this if it started working? Right? So if it started working, how could I scale with money? Even if that is organically, if what you're finding is working and converting to sales is your organic content, then how can you scale and maybe have a social media manager, do all of your content and look after your social media for you? What's the next level of scaling for you? Because you say you want these things, and this is coming back to the question of why don't you want the thing that you say you want? If you had the success you really want right now, say you had 4 high ticket sales going through your business every month, what is the fear and what comes up in your body when I say that? If you had 4 high ticket customers, clients, join your team and buy your product this month, what would you be worried about? Would you feel like that's too much? And, for people doing low ticket digital marketing and network marketing, if you wanted to earn 10K and it's hundreds or dozens of sales in order to get there, how does that make your nervous system feel? Do you actually have strategy and structure in place in order to scale without burning out? So ads is something I highly recommend. If you have absolutely no experience on, then look into. The agency that I'm using has a course, so I'll drop the link to the course. It's really for beginners. So it's very, very thorough and detailed, but if you've never run ads before, you can learn the skills and do it yourself. Again, not everyone has the budget to have an agency, but that could be the next step, right? That could be reverse engineering and going okay, my dream business is having an ads agency. So I'm just doing the creative. I don't need to run the whole thing. I'm just in my joy and creativity, like creating the content. If that's your dream business and you've got ads going to a funnel and even the sales calls are being outsourced and all of that, working backwards, what are the steps you need to do in order to get there? Step 1 is learning ads. It's actually not getting an ads agency. It's learning ads. Step 2 is outsourcing and getting to that point, because you need to get to that point naturally where you've like learnt the skills. It's like in any job. When I was working in PR, I didn't get to be an account director on day one. I had to work my way up, because you can't be at a role where you don't know what is involved in that. Like you can't, like if you had an ads agency today, would you know what they're actually doing? Would you know if they're doing a good job? Would you know what you want them to do? So make sure you don't need to know everything, but you need to at least just know the basics, to know the jargon, firstly, and secondly, to know what you're working towards, so that when you do have that, dream vision of what you want your business to look like, what you want outsourced, how you want to be making sales, how you want to earn money. Like, do you want to be earning a passive income, the majority of what you earn? If so, again, working backwards, what are the steps in order to get there? And this makes it really easy to say no to things. If you know exactly what your dream business is and what is required to get there, then if you get an opportunity, or if you're scrolling social media, or you get distracted, or there's like shiny strategy syndrome where you're like, oh, that strategy is working for that person, maybe I should go over here and invest in that. Well, does it actually create the dream business that you said you wanted? If it doesn't, it gets to be a no without explanation. You get to decline that with gratitude. You get to decline an opportunity. You get to decline an invitation. You get to decline, something that could have taken you off your path. And it does take some self-control, but asking the question, is this getting me closer to what I say I want, or what your vision is? Yes or no? No explanation, no trying to convince yourself, but just a really honest yes or no. Then it's going to be so much easier for you to stay on track and to actually get there quicker. And depending on your personality, it might actually start to feel more spacious. Like the example that I gave at the beginning, where this beautiful woman, she's so driven, but she was doing too much. And it wasn't actually building her dream business, because I know what her dream business looks like. She told me what her dream business is, and half the things that she was doing wasn't actually building it that way. And oftentimes, and I'm really saying this from experience, because I've had to ask myself this question, when I've been super busy or had a really heightened nervous system and cortisol, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing all these things and I'm feeling stressed, or I'm on my phone late at night or whatever, I have to ask myself, what am I not trusting in my strategy? Because if I trusted it, and if I felt like I was doing the right thing, and I trusted the steps and the actions that I was taking, I wouldn't be feeling this way. I wouldn't be feeling like it's not enough, I need to do more, I need to do more, I need to do more. So asking yourself, what am I not trusting right now? What doesn't feel good, or what doesn't feel aligned? Or it might be, am I trusting myself? Am I trusting that I've done enough, that the action that I'm taking is really dialed in on one strategy, or maybe two max? And I'm only saying two for people that, have the time, have the experience, and not day one. If you can really ask yourself, do I trust that I'm doing enough? Do I trust that this is enough and that I'm focusing on the right thing? If it's yes, give yourself a goddamn break, sister. Stop doing more. Doing more is not necessarily going to equate to better results. Doing less and being focused and doing something properly, that will. Instead of, it's kind of like if you picture someone as an artist and look at their studio, if they had 10 canvases, each 10% done, and not a single painting finished, how could that person go and do an exhibition? How could they go and sell their work? How could they go and create impact if they're just half doing things, right? And starting things and not finishing them. And coming back to what I was saying about Genesis and mindset and all of this, it's like, if this is a habit for you, where is that stemming from? What is the belief that you're trying to validate? around starting things and not finishing them, or procrastination. All of these things are so interesting to inquire about, but knowing them is not enough. Like knowing that you have this like Achilles heel is not enough. It's then taking action on it and seeing where it's playing out in your life or in your business. So I hope that was helpful on what you can focus on your mindset and what you can focus on your strategy. I've shared what I am for myself in 2026 and what has brought me there. I'm also going to be doing a few more solo episodes on the things that I'm teaching, because I literally spend my days, like if I have like 1 or 2 Zooms a day, and pretty much all of them are mentoring. So I'm going to be bringing a lot more of that onto the podcast. And sharing more examples of what is working, what isn't working, what I'm doing in my own business. You know, I've only just started doing ads with this agency as well. So I'm not coming from a place of like, I've been doing them for 6 months and here's all of the results. I'm actually bringing you along the journey of doing it this way, which is new to me, because in the past it's always been run by me and doing most of the heavy lifting myself. So thank you for being here. I look forward to hearing any comments or pieces of advice or topics that you want on the podcast. Just reach out and DM me on the podcast's Instagram if you want any particular topics covered. And feel free to share this with anyone that you feel would get value from it, and share it to your stories. If you got value from this, share it to your stories and tag me. I always love hearing like what were the little nuggets that really spoke for you. The best way to actually retain information is teaching someone else. So if you were like, these are the 3 points that I got from this podcast, and you put that into writing, even if you wrote it on a Post-it note or on a mirror or something that you want to remind yourself of, putting pen to paper or writing something down is the best way to actually retain that information. So go and share it, even if you speak it, share it with your husband or your partner or a friend or something, and let me know what you want to hear more of. And thank you so much for being here. We'll see you on the next episode.